we go.
All right, we are officially recording.
Awesome. So today we will be we're working on building your audiences and building your campaigns in Facebook Ad Manager. Russell Masters is my business partner and COO, Chief Operating Officer of Creatively Disruptive, and really the mastermind of what we do for gyms. And he's put everything together and the systems and the processes that is literally generating right now, probably thousands of new gymnasts a month with all the gyms that we're currently working with. And it really does work, and it can work tremendously. It can be overwhelmingly successful. And the majority of it is not, I'd like to say it's all because Russell is a genius. But the reality is it's because Facebook is a wonderful platform and Russell actually knows how to run it. So, which I think is a genius, because, I hate doing that stuff. So that's why Russell does it. But it is the inside working. It's like looking under the hood. So it's some pretty heavy lifting. So if you have any questions, please ask. Don't just sit there and get mind numbed by it all. Definitely throw questions into the chat. And if you want to actually talk, put your hand up as well, or let us know in chat, and we can, get the question out of you whatever way you wish to deliver it. But it's important, probably more so in this training than any training. And then just a reminder that tomorrow we'll be doing a training. It will be me and Jessica Alexander, our general manager. We will be talking about what we do with the leads when the leads start coming in. So usually the disconnect with gyms is, gyms that work with us, everything works really well, but there's usually a disconnect of okay, loads of people are contacting them about doing, joining the gym, but how do you get them to walk through the door into the gym? And we've got a process that we've built based on best practices of the most successful gyms that we work with, what they do. And we'll go through that tomorrow. So without further ado, Russell, if you would like to say hello and start showing people under the hood of Facebook and how it all works.
Sounds good. Well, as Andy said, my name's Russ, and I'm Andy's business partner and co-founder, and I look after the technical piece.
And by the way, he's in New Zealand, and it's 6 in the morning, so he got up early for everybody. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you. And you might have to give me 1 sec, because I just upgraded my MacBook yesterday and I need to allow Zoom to share screens, which is great. Luckily, I'm the technical guy, so this is not going to take me a sec. I'm going to bounce and be back in less than 30 seconds. 1 sec.
In the meantime, I will try to fill the space with inane talk that makes no sense to anybody. But no, so Russell was, when he comes back in, basically one of the things that I really do suggest that you guys do, if you haven't already, is go to business.facebook.com. And if you haven't already, make an account. And then you could actually follow along with Russell a little bit as he clicks through everything. That's a good process to potentially look at. So it is business.facebook.com, right, Ella, or is it facebook.business.com?
No, it's business.facebook.com. And usually we just do / settings just to see if you already have a business manager. But it'll show regardless. Just make sure you are logged into your Facebook account that is connected to your business.
Yep.
Very important.
Because this is where he's going to be working. He's not going to be working on the Facebook platform. He's going to be working in the business part of Facebook, which is important to understand, because you don't want to be running ads. You don't want to be running anything through the front end, because that ends up just being boosts and is not very useful. You want to be able to use all of the technical pieces of Facebook to get the most out of it.
27, anyway, 28, 29. There we go. 30 seconds.
You're back.
In my time.
Awesome.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Okay. That looks better. No, I checked everything this morning, but I didn't check screen sharing. So used to it just working. All right, so I'm going to go in and just literally start sharing. We're going to get right into it. Ella's given me a beautiful little slide deck to start off with, where I can quickly introduce myself. So my name is Russ, I'm the COO. I'm an adventure enthusiast, wizard of ops, parent and husband. I have 5 girls as daughters. So let me just get to stop my video too. Some fun facts about me. I've been marketing for over 20 years. I was actually a chef by trade back in the day, and got into marketing about just over 20 years ago. I developed the Kids Activity Centre Amplify Marketing Method, which has been an involvement in over the last 3 or 4 years, and just found works really, really, really well. And the behind the really worked with the team as well to create the Kids Activity Centre Marketing Academy online courses. I kind of created it, but really the team did most of the heavy lifting on that because they're awesome. And as Ella mentioned yesterday, this is some of our team. Ella, she's our unicorn. We call her the PR community manager, but she's a unicorn because she can do everything. Andy and Jessica. I'm just going to whiz through these. Best Facebook ads look and feel as relevant and timely in your newsfeed as the post you see from your friends, Mari Smith. And what that essentially means is that, to be honest, ads that look like ads, and people see ads and go, "That's an ad," and quite often can quite often get put off. So, using components from your Facebook newsfeed, your Instagram newsfeed, that make people take notice is really good. And Ella was covering that. Ella and Natalie were covering that yesterday. Things like happy smiling kids and gymnastic scenes and kids, happy smiling kids. Did I mention happy smiling kids? It's all about getting that relevancy around, and that really ties into what people are seeing on Facebook. They're going to engage with other people. End of the webinar, Ella will probably talk about the 2-month two-month kickstart again. But down to the nuts and bolts, what are we talking about today? We're actually going to do the bottom one first, how to structure your own campaign. It'll be really, really fast. Really, the nuts and bolts of how to set up a Facebook ad campaign, so on and so forth. Your best option is going to be to jump into our free academy or our pay what you can academy, from just anything that you want, because all of the tutorials in there step by step. We've got 1 hour today. The tutorials cover hours and hours and hours, so we're going to try and cram as much in as possible. Why is Facebook the best targeting platform? In my opinion, is because you can get super laser targeted on the types of people that you want to show your advertising to, and you're not just dependent on people that are actively searching for what it is that you provide right now. And there's a huge difference in that. And what that allows us to do then is actually to create like an audience of people, and put ads in front of them who might not actually be actively searching to enroll their kids in gymnastics, ninja, tumble, chair, so on and so forth. But when they see your ad, they're like, "Oh, what a great idea. I have a 7-year-old daughter here who's constantly doing backflips off the sofa. Maybe that's a really good option." So it's very different than, I have a 7-year-old daughter who does backflips. I'm going to Google search for, tumble classes near me or something like that. So Facebook's a great platform for branding opportunity, putting your brand out in front of people, and really sort of inspiring them to come and bring their kids into your gym. So what we're going to go through today is really, you know your target market, but what we're really going to do today is build an audience, and that audience, what I'm going to show you is how do you, if you know who your target market is, like mums with kids, aged between such and such,
which is really your key market. How do you build an audience of those people? How do you understand what they might be interested in? Where are they? And then once you know that, and you can put that into Facebook, then you can create some ads using some of the messaging tactics that you saw yesterday. And now you've got that combination. If anybody saw my thing in the chat yesterday, great audience and great ads equals more business, right? They don't work independently of each other. They work in harmony with each other. So yeah, some other stuff there. Let's just get into it. The first thing you want to do, and if you type this into your drop this address down, Ella, you can put it in the chat, business.facebook.com. If you have a business, a Facebook business account, when you go to business.facebook.com, you'll get something that looks like this. If you do not have a business account, you'll get something that looks like this, and you'll have to then go ahead and create an account. A little caveat, do be logged into Facebook first before you do this. And what business.facebook.com does is it allows you to create a business account for your business, but it's attached to your personal account. So if you're logged into Facebook, go to business.facebook.com, see this, go ahead and click on the create account. It'll take you maybe 10 minutes, very easy. They make it very easy to take your money and get you onto a really good targeting platform. If you don't see this, and instead you see something like this, or basically you log in, then you've got a business account. Once you're logged in, what you want to do is you want to go up in here. You've got these three little dots. You want to go to this ads manager, and this is where all the goodness happens. This is where all the good stuff. This is where you're going to build your ads, build campaigns, build audiences, put all of the copy and messaging that you were shown yesterday in, and start putting your business out in front of people. The ads manager is broken down into three sections, which is campaigns. And so a campaign is basically where you're going to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to send people to my website, or I want to have people call my business, or I want to make people like my page, or I want to have somebody send me a message in Facebook Messenger. Then you have the ad set for the campaign. So this is the next step in building your campaign. And this is essentially where you're going to put, I want to send people to my website. So the ad set is like, who am I going to send to my website? What is my audience? Where do they live? And, are they male or female, or what age are they? So on and so forth. And then once you've got that, then you're going to go into an ad, and you're going to build out, you're going to put all the messaging that you saw yesterday. Your kids will grow in confidence at, my gym, et cetera, benefits, headline, really cool, creative, or image. And then people will, the right people, because you've targeted them in the ad set, will then click on that ad, and they will engage with your gym, and you will start to grow your business. Right? Sounds nice and simple. Anybody have any questions at this stage? I know we've kind of whistled through, and I'm going to kind of now I will slow down a little bit, and we'll get into the good stuff. But does anybody have any questions about those things that I've just gone over, mainly around that business.facebook and getting in and logging into that? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. So that's all good for now. And if you do, just honestly, feel free to just interrupt me, just butt in and go, Russ, stop. What do you mean about such and such? It's not a problem. So once you get into Ads Manager, as I said, the first thing you'll see is campaigns, and you'll see this big old green button called Create. They make it very easy, and it's a very guided process, right? So the only thing that you need to check is really this choose a campaign objective. And there's a lot of different objectives, and this is what I was talking about. You can send people to your website with a traffic, and you'll notice that have these little exclamation points or info points, which when you hover over will give you an idea of what that means. And so this is the type of campaign that you want to do. So traffic, send people to a destination like a website. Engagement, get more page likes. App installs, well, we're not going to show our ads. People are most likely to download it and engage with our app because we probably don't have one. We might want to show people video ads, lead generation, messages, etc., etc. For today's exercise, we'll use a traffic objective, just sending people to a website. And once you've selected that, then you get this option here, and you can give the name, the campaign a name. So let's call this, website traffic new, new parents. And then we're going to create an ad set, because as I said, we create the campaign, which is what we're trying to do. The ad set will be who we're trying to do it to. So let's say new parents within 5 miles of gym. And then we'll create an ad, and we'll say, I don't know, let's call this a free trial. And you'll click on continue, and it'll take a few seconds for it to go through its bits and pieces. And then it will come up with a new screen that looks like this. And on the left-hand side, you can see at the top, website traffic new parents. That's the name of the campaign. There's a couple of options in here. And then there's the new parents within 5 miles of the gym, which is our ad set, which is the who we're going to target. And then free trial is the name of the ad. That's what we are going to, what advert we are going to send them to. So in terms of the options down through here, you've got a few options. The only one I would probably kind of recommend you do is this campaign budget optimization. Personally, I would recommend just turn it on. You don't have to understand too much of what it does, but it just makes managing your budget easier, especially when you start putting some dollars behind it. And more importantly, it gives Facebook some better flexibilities and better power to kind of manage where it's going to spend the money that you've got with the ads, the ads that you've got. And it does it in a way that uses, its algorithm and its machine learning. It doesn't in a way that way smarter than us, us human beings. So switch on that, and then you're going to set a daily budget. A lot of people ask me, what should I set as my minimum daily budget? Honestly, $20 a day is a good starting point. For a lot of gyms, anything between $20 and $40 a day, depending on the size of your location, the size of the population in your area, so on and so forth. But more importantly, it's how many results do you want to get. If you spend $5 a day, you're not going to get much action. If you spend $20 a day, it's 25 is usually 20, 25, 30. That's usually a pretty good average for most gyms and their locations in terms of the types of action that you'll get. Phone calls and messages and email inquiries on your website and so on and so forth. So $25, $30 is usually a pretty good number to start with. If you want to just kind of like test it out and figure, just really test it, sure, maybe start with $5 just to get a feel for how it's going to work, but just understand that, if you spend anything less than probably $20 a day, it's just not going to work for you. You're better off spending $20 a day for a week and turn it off for 3 weeks than $5 a day for 4 weeks. Okay. So once you've done that, down on the bottom, you've got a next option, and you'll go through, and this is now the who, right? Who are we going to send this ad to? And this is what we're going to spend most of our time in today, and pretty happy with really well on time too. So this who, it's called the ad set, right? So I'm going to just reiterate this. The ad set is the part within the campaign. And the campaign was, we want to send people to our website. So the ad set is, well, which people do we want to send to our website? Who are these people? Because as you can imagine, on Facebook, there's a few people, and you've got Instagram as well, so a few more people. A lot of people are on both. Some people are more on one than the other. But if you think about your own location, there's a ton of people out there. So if you just say everybody in my location, it's kind of like grabbing a bunch of brochures and flyers and putting them on windscreens of cars and car parks, or going through and putting them on letterbox drops. I think the average uplift for a letterbox drop is about 1%. So it's not a very effective kind of marketing. It's a good, you're probably going to reach everybody, but it's going to cost you a lot of money to reach them. So imagine, instead of going into a car park, your local mall and just putting flyers on every car, imagine if you could go into that mall and put flyers on every car that is owned by a mum that has kids between the ages of, say, 1 and 17, and they live within, say, 5 miles of your gym. That'd be pretty powerful, right? That would give you, you'd spend a lot less money printing brochures. You'd have a lot more targeted effort in terms of putting the brochures on. You'd probably have a lot better recall on those ads, on those brochures, because you've just put it on the cars of parents or mums who've got kids who are, that's your target market. So in Facebook, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do exactly the same thing. The way Facebook works is there's 2 types of audiences. So one type of audiences, which is kind of where Facebook really started, is its interests audience. Now, if you think about you as a person, and especially if you're a parent, you'll probably relate to this, but you think about what you do online on the internet, you think about what you do on Facebook, you think about what you like, pages that you like, posts that you like, things that you like from other companies. Think about your website browsing habits, because most websites have a little piece of code that allows, like Google Analytics, that basically allow the Facebook ad platform to say, all the people that visit my website, I want to be able to, retarget them. I want to be able to understand who they are and send ads to them that are relevant. So if you go to, Oshkosh or a kid's site, or if you go to a sports store, if you go to a surfing store, or if you like those on Facebook, all of these things start to give Facebook some really good insights as to what you're interested in and what type of person you are, right? What actually drives you and what motivates you. And so as an advertiser or as a business owner, when you come to start building an audience and start to really say, well, how do I find, parents? Then you can sit back and think, well, what would a mum be interested in that somebody that's not a mum wouldn't be interested in? And I'm going to repeat that, because that is the biggest secret that you can ever have when it comes to building Facebook audiences. What would a mum be interested in that somebody that's not a mum wouldn't be interested in? So to illustrate this, we could say, hey, I want to find mums, and I know a lot of my mums like to stay fit, and there's a they belong to they belong to fitness gyms, or they do running and so on and so forth. But it's not actually really a very good option, because single people who are single or who are not mums also like to stay fit, right? They also go to gyms. So it's the same thing. You're just going to be targeting everybody. So what you want to be thinking about is, well, what would be interesting to a mum that isn't? So you start thinking of kids brands, kids activities, all of the things that as a parent, they might be on the internet, looking at, they might be part of, it might be an organization. And these are the things that we start to uncover that allow us to really, sort of hone in. I talked about different types of audiences. So that's the best audience type for gymnastics clubs or kids activity centers, and for many people, for local businesses in general. The other type of audiences that, if you've had any exposure to Facebook, that you might have heard about things like lookalike audiences or custom audiences that are made up of people that have visited your website and then creating an audience of people that look like that. But in all honesty, most of the times these types of audiences with smaller locations really don't benefit from that, because they're designed to work at more of a national level, or at least like a wide state level. So with that background into audiences, let's get in here and start building it. So we've given this ad set a name, New Parents Within 5 Miles of the Gym. And you'll notice that what I do with with the naming is I make it meaningful. I try and give it a name that when I'm looking at it, if I've got a few different ads, it gives me a bit of an idea as to what this is actually about. So you've got a few options, and these options will change somewhat, not hugely, but there are some slight differences depending on the type of campaign that you chose: video, messenger, call now, Facebook likes, traffic, so on and so forth. But to the largest part, they're very, very similar. So as we scroll down, we've got an option for traffic. Where do we want to send them to? Well, we want to send them to a website. We do have an option for a messenger, but we're going to stick with website. You've got dynamic creative, an interesting concept. You can click on the learn more on any of these things, and they will bring up more information over on the right-hand side. Budget and schedule. Well, the budget is managed at the campaign level. We put that $20 a day in. The start date, unless you want to start it later, you don't have to change that. The end date, unless you want to set an end date, you don't have to change that. End date can be useful if you're doing something and it's, and you want the ad to finish in, say, 3 weeks' time. Maybe it's an event or something and has an expiration. And then the next step is our audience. And so what you've got here is create new audience or use a saved audience. Now, if you've saved audiences in the past, and I'll show you how to do this, then you can pick one. You can pick one out. And what we're going to look at out here is this detailed targeting. And again, if you put your mouse over the little information icon, it gives you a little bit of information about this. Define your audience by including or excluding demographics, interests, and behaviors. And so we're going to go ahead and click on edit. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is when I hovered over that information icon, right? There was 3 different things that it was talking about: demographics, interests, and behaviors. So one of the first things I always do would start off with demographics. And if you go ahead and type in parents, give it a second. And it does take it, like, you got to sometimes give it a couple of seconds while it thinks, because it's got a lot to go through. But one of the really interesting things is that you can type in parents, and you can see that we can select a demographic of parents who have, kids aged between 3 and 5, 6 and 8, 9 and 12, so on and so forth. So let's do that. Let's pick the 0 to 1. And instead of having to type parents again and go through the whole thing, a little trick, you can just click on all parents up here, and then you can just check the boxes of the ones that you want to include. So for this exercise, let's actually say that we're going to do 3 to 5, 9 to 12, and 6 to 8, and the 1 to 2. And you'll see that this starts to populate up here. Now, in a perfect world, that's all we would need to do, and it'd be fantastic, and our lives would be easy, and we'd create a great ad, and we would sit back and the inquiries would roll in. But unfortunately, this is just a good starting point, because this is not guaranteed, and it won't cover all of your parents. So it's a good start, and it does cover some. But what we've found in thousands and thousands of ads and testing is that there's a whole lot more people in our area than just the ones that are defined by these sort of demographics. But it's a really good starting point. So that's my starting point, right? Choose all parents and pick the parents of the, with the age ranges of the kids that you're trying to target. Now, you might be doing an ad that's just for a particular type of class, in which case you could, refine those ages down a little bit. Or you might be doing an ad that is targeting, you're basically advertising your gym in general, or your dance school or swim school, but advertising it in general. And so you might have all of the ages that you cater for. So the next thing you want to do is, if that's not quite enough, if that doesn't cover everybody, what's the next thing we can look at? Well, the next thing we can look at is the interests. And this is what I was talking about before. What would a mum be interested in that somebody who's not a mum wouldn't be interested in? And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. if you know some brands, and if there's a local brand, you can try and type it in. But to be honest, the brand has to be of a particular size or a particular level of popularity before Facebook will include it in the interest. So if there's a local, I don't know, like activity center that that mums take kids to, it's probably not going to show up in your Facebook interest. Or if there's a local kids store like that sells, I don't know, kids toys or something, it's probably not going to show up in Facebook interest. But you can always, but do type it in, because sometimes you'll be surprised. Maybe it's bigger than you think. What you're looking for though is you're looking for brands that are perhaps a little bigger, so think about what would a mum like, and what you also want to start thinking about when you're thinking about that is think about it in terms of these age brackets, right? So if you're advertising for your whole gym, then you're thinking about what would a mum of 3-year-olds like, or a mum of 10-year-olds like, or a mum of 13-year-olds like, right? Because they're very different. If you just restrict it all to Disney and baby kids clothes and baby products and so on and so forth, then you're going to get an audience of pretty much young mums or mums with young kids. So you'll want to expand that out and think about maybe soccer mums, mums that are interested in that, like sort of Girl Guides or scouting, Scouting of America, so on and so forth. And you really start, and it's really good to even just grab a piece of paper and just start writing some things down. Little tip, in the academy, we actually have this all copied down. You can literally just copy and paste it just to make your life easy. But it's really good to also understand. So if you're doing your own exploration, right, you can start typing some things in here. So let's type in, I love this one because this one actually can trip people up. So let's say one of the brands we think about is Johnson & Johnson. So we think, okay, well, her mum would probably like Johnson & Johnson. Somebody who's not a mum may not have quite as much like within Johnson & Johnson. And so you'll come down here and you'll see that there's 4 options, right? So we've got Johnson's Baby. Well, that could be good. So we could add that. And then if we do that again, and Facebook is really finicky because it likes you to type correctly. So we'll type it right. Johnson. And you'll see that there's 2 Johnson & Johnson interests here. Now, over on the right-hand side, one is employers and the other one is interests. So this demographic, and I use this exercise deliberately because you want to pay attention to what's on the right-hand side, that like how is this categorized? Is it a demographic? Is it an employer? Is it a behavior? Or is it an interest? Because obviously targeting employers of Johnson & Johnson probably isn't going to do you many favors. So just be aware when you do a search for an interest in here, that you're just having a look on that right-hand side to make sure that it is relevant. In this case, we had employers and interests, and you can see that the potential size up on the the little pop out, 48 million versus 170,000. Now this is on Facebook, right? This is not in your area. We'll get to the area in a second. So that's it's an important little gotcha. Just look at that category on the right-hand side, just to make sure that whatever it is, is actually the right classification for you. The other thing that you can do, which is works quite well with Facebook, is you can click on this suggestions option, and the suggestions option is great. It does have its limitations, but it is fantastic. It's fantastic in that what it does is it looks at what you've got up here, and then it gives you suggestions, and it says, hey, if you're looking at these interests, then maybe these ones might be of interest to you as well, because we found that the people that are in this audience that you've currently been picking potentially also like these things. Now, you don't want to necessarily take it as given and just go through and start clicking on these, because there could be some things in here like LensCrafters or Bausch & Lomb that maybe a little bit more general. But what you can do is you can start scrolling through here, and you can start looking at it and going, okay, well maybe Baby Shop And if I click on suggestions again, I've got lots of different things in here. And what I want to show you though is think, again, you constantly have to be thinking about the age range that you're trying to target. And where the suggestions, the caveat with the suggestions, where it does sort of lead you astray a little bit sometimes, is that it does its job really, really well, and that it gives you suggestions based on your picks. So if we start, doing things that we think are really great, like, infant formula, children's, there we go, infant bed, I'm deliberately picking, young ones, then what you'll see is that these suggestions, they really start becoming very centric around young kids, like really, really young. And the more I pick these, these really young ones, Johnson's Baby, the more I'm getting these just really, really young options. And so what I want to do is I really want to sort of try and not get too derailed by the suggestions and take that as like, oh, that's all there is. I want to start putting in some of my own suggestions. Let me just grab this tab and put it over here. And so I'm going to bring this one in front. So here's one I prepared a little earlier, and we're going to go in and let's just go in and edit this. Excuse me. And so here's an example and of an audience that, and this is an audience that we actually use for gyms, right? So this is not, we're not giving you 70% of the good information and holding back the rest of the 30% that will actually make the difference. This is an audience that we actually use in marketing gyms. And so what you'll see through here, just going to slow that down a little bit. We've got our demographics, and this is a pretty wide demographic. And then if you come through here, we've got some interests that we use. American youth football, youth soccer, Baby Yoga, Baby Center, Boy Scouts. You see, it's it's really quite broad. What we actually did with this is we actually took each one of these parents with early school age children on its own, and we built an audience just around that. We put it to one side. Then we did it with preschoolers and built an audience related to that and put it to one side, and then we combined them all together. And what that does, it enables us, if we're wanting to target just parents with kids that we feel are probably in this age range, we can just use a specific set of interests. So if we're targeting, like a gymnastics team where the minimum age is maybe say 12 years old, we're probably not going to put the baby interest in there, right? We're going to put the interests of American Girl and maybe Girl Guides and some of those sort of older interests. Bradford Exchange or Brownie. There's a bunch of different ones in there, and how we got to that is, if I click back in here. Actually, let me stop for a sec. I'm going through quite a bit here. Does anybody have any questions or want to ask me anything about like where I've got to so far in terms of putting some demographics in there and then the interest, whether you're typing them in or using the suggestions option? All right, cool. And if you're in the gymnastics marketing group, definitely reach out there. You can message me directly. You can just tag me in any post in there, and if you've got questions about it, like you go away later on and think, oh, what was it he said about such and such, or could I do this? Then just tag me in there. And if you're not in the gymnastics marketing group, do go ahead and join. It's pretty good. So this is the audience, right? And the goal is that you're going to end up getting to a point of this where you've just got a whole lot of things in here that are that are related to basically hopefully related to being a parent. And there are some things that might be a little bit gray, because my philosophy, especially when starting out with a campaign, is I'd rather, if I have an audience of 100,000 people, and let's be really simple with our maths, 100,000 people, 50,000 mums, and 50,000 not mums, I'm not going to be able to find those exact 50,000 mums, but I'd rather find 50,000 mums and 10,000 non-mums, because I know I'm going to get as many people as I can in there, than super target it and only get 30,000 mums and miss 20,000. So I do allow for things to be a little bit broad, go over a little bit, because I want to reach every single mum that I possibly can. If I'm doing a smaller ad and I'm very, very targeted, then I might just use the demographics and just maybe one or two interests, and that's fine as well. One of the biggest things that if you start doing Facebook ads is that testing is the biggest thing. What works for a friend that's got a gym over the way in a different state, a different city, may not work for you quite as well. It's just the way it's kind of the way Facebook works, but it's more actually the way people work, right? Because people are so different from one area to another, from one city to another city, from a small town to big town, east coast, west coast, north to south, center. Everybody's different, and so what works exactly for you may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead and just actually I will do it in here. I'll get rid of these interests, because I just want to show you, if you want to target. So we talked about targeting, for your gym in general, but let's say we want to target, a smaller age range of kids, and you'll see that when I click on the suggestions, instantly my suggestions are quite a bit different, right? They're not suggestions of around baby products, right? Real young products, because we've got these parents with early school age children, 6 to 8 and 9 to 12. And if I refine that even more, you see that just instantly changed again. Now, it's not going to be perfect, and you actually see that there's a lot less options to start with. But so what I could do is I could go, okay, well, kids film, that could be good. 9 to 12, maybe kindergarten, but that might be a bit young. I can go through here and go, okay, children's literature. I saw primary school, primary education, private school, reading. So we can start seeing some, maybe we click married, maybe not. A lot of married people don't have kids. Primary education, and you can see that now we've got this an audience that's really tailored around targeting parents that have got kids between this age group, and that becomes really powerful, because if you've got an ad that's running for a particular class or a particular program, maybe has some age parameters in it, then this gives you that ability to be able to kind of really target down and see whether or not you can just reach in and just advertise to those parents. And you'll notice when I said that, I just said parents, right? For the first time I didn't say mums, because we're going to go on to the next piece, which is demographics. A lot of people think that it's mums that make the decisions, or I want to target mums in the area. What I do know statistically is Facebook probably going to reach 70, maybe 80% of females with this type of advertising, because that's what the stats show us from, look at we crunch years of data for thousands and thousands of kids activity center ads, and we can look at what Facebook is doing, and typically it's 70 to 80% females. And the way we make that distinction is we don't actually tell Facebook to just go after a particular gender. We say, Facebook, find us the people. Facebook knows on your site the types of people who visit it, knows the types of people that engage with your Facebook page and your Instagram account. It knows that you're probably a gymnastics club, so it's got a pretty good idea of who engages with other gymnastics clubs and the types of people. Ergo, gets a pretty good idea, especially if you've given it some interests, that hey, probably going to get the best results for this gymnastics club who are advertising by focusing maybe 70% on females and a whole lot less on on the dad side of the parental relationship, because there are some dads, and we do see males converting, right? Dads who make a decision. Typically, if it's me, I would say to my wife, hey, I think this is really good. She would go on and, you know, and she would sign up. But we typically don't specify gender. You do have the option. I want to show you where it is in here. So it's just above this detailed targeting. So in this all genders, and again, you can test this, right? Test it out for yourself. But Facebook does, here's why we don't do it. Facebook does better when you give it, when you trust it to use its algorithm to do a good job. Facebook works really, really well when you give it direction more than specificity, right? Don't try and control Facebook. Don't try and trick it, control it, hack it, you know, make it do what you want to do. Give it direction. It's like having a really smart employee that's just super onto it. Go, hey, I want you to just go and find parents who are, you know, because I think the people that are interested in this, because I think they're parents, I think it'd be a good fit for our gym. That's it. Go to it. Oh, and they're, you know, within this area of our gymnastics club. But the more you try and control it, two things will happen. One is your costs will go up because the more controlled you are in your audience, so you have these interests, and I only want to target women, and only women between the ages of 35 and, you know, 49 years old or something like that. Within this location, your costs will actually start to go up. Not dramatically, but they will go up. But the other thing, the most important thing, your results probably won't be as good because you're not giving Facebook's algorithm the room to breathe, or the room to actually really perform, right? Facebook needs the room to perform. And to give you an example, you know, we run ads for, say, like larger e-commerce stores. We'll give Facebook $500-600 a day, and we'll say, hey, here's an audience of 15 million people that are very similar to the types of people that have purchased, and here's $600 a day, 2 adverts. Go to it, go and find me the best people. And it will almost always do better than if I was to really, really be super instructive to Facebook, and it will just fall flat on its face. So my, you know, long story short, my recommendation, don't split the gender, don't even bother with the age. I can almost guarantee that, you know, if you look at the reporting, you'll see that, you know, it will be 70% women, and probably the majority will be between the ages of, you know, mid-20s to late 40s. Facebook kind of knows. But there's also the opportunistic aspect of it, right? Because you might have, you know, you might have younger people who, you know, show it to their parents because, you know, they've got a younger sibling, or you might have grandparents. We've seen a lot of people in that grandparent age sign their grandkids up because it's something that they want to do. But Facebook will put most of that money into, you know, into the right age ranges and the right genders. But you can, you know, if you want to, you can, you know, come down here and you can, you know, choose an age range if you want as well. The other thing, which is kind of like the big key, you know, this is the big key, because we've got this audience of, you know, you see up here, like, you know, potential reach of 93 million people. That's kind of ridiculous because we're not going to target everybody in the United States. So we really need to think about we've said who we want to target, but where are these people? So there's a couple of things that we can do, and we can either we can either type in the address of our gymnastics club. So I'm going to type in Facebook's address, one hack away, and you can see that it puts a little pin with a radius around it, and default radius there, it said 1 mile. So we're basically saying, find people in this radius of 1 mile from my gym. And obviously you can expand that out, or you know, and make it to whatever you want. If you're in a big city that's super populated, and, you know, drive times are really hard, you know, you might not want to have a big radius. If you're in a small location, you want to reach out, then maybe you do want to have a big radius. You know, maybe it's 10 miles, maybe it's even 20 miles. You know, if you're in a bit more of a sort of rural location, so you can control that. Yeah, and you'll have an idea from your parents, like where do your parents typically travel from? You know, what areas are they living in? What zip codes do they live in? And if we talk about zip codes, then that's the other thing that you can also search for. So if I just pick one out here, one that I know it's actually where we're located. I'm going to take this address out. So when you type a zip code, you'll notice we get a different result here, right? It's literally targeting that zip code, and we can put in multiple zip codes as well. 853, hopefully this will work. Yeah, look at that. And now we can actually build up by zip codes. And this is really powerful because you might find that, you've got a location and in that radius, maybe there's a big industrial area and you don't really want to have to target in there. So you could, or maybe, radius doesn't work because you've got, some locations over here and a location over here and a location over there. Maybe you've got a bridge or it's a big city or whatever it is. And you want to really just target specific zip codes. You can just type in zip codes. You can also combine it, right? To West Bell Road. I think maybe it might be in this area. No, but you can type a physical address in here as well. So if I thought I could type in this one here, but if you can type in an address, and you can have an address with zip codes, right? So you can mix and match, and that way you can, you might have like a 1 mile radius around your gym and then a couple of little suburbs, or you might have 3 mile and there might be a zip code that's just outside, but that you get a lot of parents from there. So you can put a zip code in there and another zip code in, and then you can put an address around your gym, and you can get really defined as to where these people are. The last thing that you can also do, and it's not a lot of reasons that you'd want to do this, but if you ever do, let's say that we can actually use this thing which is called drop pin. So if we drag this, or sorry, click on it, and you'll see I've got this little pin. So I could say I want to target these zip codes, but maybe I also want to target just this little pocket in, and I zoom in and I say, okay, I know that right in here there's a resort and I want to target around that. So I'll drop this pin and I can drop that down to 1 mile. And it's a little bit finicky, this map, but let's try and scroll out a little bit. And now you can see I've got these 2 zip codes. Oh, crikey, look at this. As I said, this map is a little finicky. You can see I've got these 2 zip codes, and then I've got this area where I dropped a pin. So the targeting is super flexible in terms of where you want to find the people that you're looking to get into your gym. Questions? Does anybody have any questions on this part of it here? We're wrapping up towards the end of it, but before I move on, just open that up. All right, cool. So we finished this ad set. We scroll back up to the top. We've got the name, we're targeting the website. The budget's managed at the campaign level. We've got a start date. We've just left that as default. We're targeting people in this case, and 2 zip codes and a location radius that we've put in there, and maybe an address. We've left the ages open, we've left the gender open. We're going to let Facebook do its work, but we're going to give Facebook a really good idea of who we want to target by, we've used a demographic, in this case preteens 9 to 12, and then we've picked up a couple of interests that relate to that, because we're trying to target mums of those ages. And everything else, I would say just leave it. Don't bother ticking this, don't change these. And if you want to change them because you know what they do. And if you're not sure what they do and you're really interested, then just click on these learn mores. Everywhere's got different learn mores, and you can find out more. And then you can, by all means test. But for simplicity, location, interests, click on next. And the final part is taking what you created from yesterday's session. You created some really nice, you learned some lessons on how to create some good copy that's going to be compelling, right? Really understanding that messaging. And in here, that's where you can then put this messaging in here. So let's put in this one here. And you can put in some messaging, and you can you just follow the prompts. It's super easy. Media, add an image or add a video. We could go in here and we'll just pick this image here. I think let's pick this one here. So we'll pick an image, make sure it looks good, and we'd write a headline. And I'm just going to use one I created earlier, and then last thing you would put your website URL, right? So mywebsite.com, and the final thing to wrap it up is your call to action, right? So what do you want them to do? Do you want, you can have no button, actually works. People know if they're interested, they'll tap on it, they'll click on it. But you can have contact us. If you're doing an offer, you could try get offer, learn more and sign up. Often work really, really well. If you're using a phone number, then you'll have, call now and so on and so forth, but you'll have that call to action. And then the last thing you'll want to do is just, make sure that you use a pixel. We haven't touched a pixel in this one. There is extensive videos and trainings on the pixel side of things in the Academy. Once you've done that, you can click on publish and give it about 30 seconds. It will publish it. Then it goes into Facebook's review system, and it takes anywhere from 1 to 24 hours, for that ad to publish. And all things being equal, Facebook will approve your ad, and you will, then be spending $20 a day or whatever you put down, going to people that live in the areas that you define in your ad set, who are interested in the things that you defined in your audience, and showing them the message or the ad that you created with the messaging that you had and the image you had, the headline, and the call to action of, either no button, just encourage somebody to click, or to learn more or to sign up for a gym program. I'm just going to turn that off real quick because it's I don't necessarily really want that to be a live ad. And that's a wrap. That concludes it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm available for a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to have a chat and answer any questions you've got.
We have a very quiet group, Russell. Either they're very quiet or they just get it. They just get
very
it.
studious.
No,
there's a lot of information. There's a ton of information. So I get it. And probably you'll find that when you actually go to do your first one, you'll then those questions might come up. And do please use the Academy. We're all in the Academy. If you just if you put a post in there. We say put a post in the Academy because if you've got a question, likely
group, you mean like the Facebook?
Oh, sorry. You're right. My bad. The Facebook group, and you put a question there as a post, being public, because chances are somebody else has that question and allowed. And if you @mention Russell or @mention Ella, then we'll definitely respond to you.
Yeah. And I mean, this is pretty heavy lifting, but it is really game-changing information. Unfortunately, with Facebook, it's a constant battle to stay on top of it because they do change things regularly. And that's why it's even if you've got all this information, it's good to be updating that information constantly. It's good to be, training yourself, be involved with the group, the gymnastics marketing group. So if you have any questions, you can ask those as things change.
It looks like we have 2 questions in the chat.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw those actually. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alice. So Nadiana, do we try to use different targets for each ad, or do we find that one that gets results and keep using that same target? And I imagine when you say targets, imagine you're thinking about like the audience. Once we find a good audience, we'll typically just keep working that audience. What we typically find more than anything in terms of what needs to be changed, because if you're able to find an audience that targets all of the mums, or all of the parents in your location, you're not going to change that, right? It will change as new mums come in and people like different things, but we'll stick with that audience. We'll probably never change it, because at the end of the day, we just want parents. What we will change though is the ad, because as you can imagine, right, it'll be like, if we go back to that, flyers on the windscreen of cars, if you just keep sticking the same old thing on month in, month out, people start to, you kind of get blind to it after a little while, right? So, and we call this ad fatigue. So people see the ad in a newsfeed and go, oh, that's interesting. And I see it again. Oh, that's interesting. See it again, And, like that sticky note you put on the fridge for that really important thing that you don't want to forget. And every day you walk past, mustn't forget. A couple of weeks later, I can guarantee that sticky note will still be on the fridge and you won't see it anymore. And that's what happens with ads. And we call it ad fatigue or creative fatigue. And more often than not, it's just simply a matter of like even just changing the image that you use. Keep the text. You can even keep the text the same. But that's the long answer. Short answer is, if you've got the right target audience, no, you're not going to change it. But do keep your ads changed. Change them maybe every couple of months, depending on how much you're spending. Sweet. Dustin, need help with pixels? I have not figured that out, as well as hiring ads. Yeah, man, so those are two definitely two big things. So pixels, and pixels are so worth, for everybody that's still on here, pixels are so worth figuring out, because they just give you so much more power to utilize Facebook well. The best thing to do would be, honestly, Dustin, the best thing to do would be sign up for our academy, jump in there, and we've got a section in there on how to use pixels. Or if you started, you're in it and you're trying to do it, and you've got a particular question, just reach out to me in the group. Whether I answer it like in a comment, or whether I do a screenshot, or whether I do a little, like video snippet or something. But if it's anything pixel related, I can guarantee I will be able to help you with that. And hiring ads is another beast, because Facebook does have some very strict rules around employment ads, just to cover things like discrimination and fairness, etc. And when you using that Facebook Ads Manager that I was showing you there, when you create an ad, there's an option when you're creating it, and you'll see it's called special category. And in that special category, there's a drop down in there, and you can select employment ads. What it does is it does reduce some of the targeting options that are available to you. And it does that so that you can't discriminate, right? You can't, that you do it within Facebook's ecosystem. So when you're setting up the campaign, look for the special, I think it's called the special category, and the drop down there you'll see employment ads. You tick that, and then you'll be able to follow your nose. And if you've had employment ads disapproved because you haven't followed that process, then that will get you into the right thing, the right part of it, and you're more likely to be able to create an ad to hire some people that will actually get approved as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. And we have run ads for gyms, and we do occasionally run ads for gyms when they ask for it. And we've had some pretty decent success. I know it's pretty hard sometimes to hire. It's one of the biggest issues that successful gyms have, is finding staff to scale and grow their programs. But you can utilize Facebook to help attack that problem as well. And it's all about having a robust marketing system, right? And keeping it rolling. And once that happens, what I think is great about this process with Facebook is, once you've got that spigot and that flow of ongoing clients, then your focus really does become all about how to have a really great program, and to make sure, you might already have a good program, how to make it great. You might have a great program, how to make it better. And then you've got this influx of incoming inquiries, incoming people. You've got this program that's always getting better, because you're spending most of your time, which is really your area of genius, to make it better. And those two things tend to work really well. What ends up happening is you max out the numbers in your gym. Like I said, earlier in 2 days ago, you'll get to that maximum number in your gym, whatever that is. And then the only option that you have is to raise prices. And that is where we want you to be. We want you to be raising prices, because at that point you actually start making revenue, which then turns us into a business that can support employees' lives and careers, and make gymnastics an actual viable career that staff members can have. And obviously you as a gym owner or a gym manager can hopefully be making some good money for your families as well. And that's absolutely possible, and we see that time and time again. So with that, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow we're doing our converting interest into business, into gymnasts training. That's the culmination of this 4-day process, where you've learned what's possible, you've learned how to message, you've learned how to target, and now it's going to be how do we actually convert all of that information and all of that interest into business. And we're going to be doing that tomorrow. That'll be with myself and Jessica Alexander, our general manager. I do highly recommend, if you're not already joined the gymnastics marketing group, that you join it so you can ask questions. There's not, we don't put a whole bunch of ads. There's not a whole bunch of trying to sell you stuff in there. It's basically a help portal. As I said, USA Gymnastics recognized it as a resource for gyms, which I'm quite proud. We're quite proud of. We also have the Gymnastics Marketing Academy. You find that by going to creativelydisruptive.com, and then you click on what we teach. Is it what we teach?
Yeah.
And then you click on the link which says Gymnastics Marketing Academy. Sign up to that. It's a pay what you want. So if you don't want to pay anything, pay zero. If you want to pay something, pay whatever you decide. It's there for you guys as a resource. There is costs involved to us. That's why, we're not just saying it's for free. So if you feel like you want to, pay something, feel free, but I'd rather you not pay us and actually do it and get the benefit of it, especially with the tough times that you guys are possibly dealing with, and get the benefit from it and secure your gym and get things moving in the right direction, than not because you feel bad about not paying. So please make sure, regardless, that you sign up and get involved with that. There's about 70 something classes in there, maybe more. They're getting updated constantly. New information's being put in there. And if you sign up, it's for life, right? So it's not a limited time. You sign up and you're in there for the lifetime. And then finally,